it's Karen from PortPrep, and I'm here with Emma Little. Emma is an architecture student at Carleton University in Ottawa, Ontario. And Emma came to PortPrep to learn how to make a portfolio for lots of different schools that you were applying to. And so Emma's gone through one semester of Carleton, so she's here to tell anybody who's interested, what is it like studying there, and a little bit about what the application process was like and making a portfolio. So she's going to show us some stuff, both what her portfolio looks like and some stuff she's been doing at university. Wouldn't that be interesting to see? So I'm going to turn the floor over there to you, Emma, and so we can hear more about what your experience was like. I'm so curious to see what it's like to study at Carleton. I'm always helping students get into the school, but rarely get to see what they're actually doing. So thank you so much for being with us to share a bit about your experiences.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So far, the transition's been really great. At Carleton, there's a lot of great people. It's been really interesting to meet all the different types of people. I find that I've found a lot of international students are there too, so I'm meeting people from all over the world. And it's been kind of a smooth transition. I find like they make it very easy and they give you so many resources and opportunities that you feel very comfortable in what you're doing there. So the semester's been great so far, but I want to start off with my portfolio. I will share my screens here.
So how did you feel when you first walked in the door at Carleton?
It was really overwhelming. I found that I was like very wowed. I loved the architecture building. I had visited before, but I didn't get to see inside the architecture building. So when I first walked in, it was like really, really exciting. Like I was like, this is where I'm going to be for like the next like 4 or 5 years to do my undergrad. And it was I don't know, it was nice. I walked around the building. I met a couple of people. I met a couple like profs. I got to see a class as well. So it was a good first experience. I really liked it.
It must have been exciting when you got the news that you were accepted.
Yeah, it was very exciting. I was very happy, especially after visiting the school. I would recommend if you have the chance to visit any school that you can, no matter where it is, because it really changes your view on the school. Like it makes you, I didn't know I wanted to go to Carleton as much until I went there. So I recommend.
Cool. Yeah, I remember you trying to make the decision.
Yeah,
And
I was
talked
so
to some
unsure.
past students and he went for the tour. And yeah, it's a big decision, right? So I'm glad that
Yeah,
you're happy with your choice. This is beautiful. Look at this portfolio cover.
yeah,
Yeah,
this
so
is what
tell
I
us
ended
a
up
bit
with.
about, show us your portfolio. Tell us a bit about that process for you.
This is what I ended up with. This is my final portfolio for Carleton. Karen had taught me to make it personalized, so we decided to get me to draw something for the cover because I love drawing, and that's one of my skills that I definitely was able to demonstrate in my portfolio. So I had drawn a little Monstera sketch that goes out throughout the portfolio. You might see it a couple more times. But yeah, I definitely like the more simple black and white portfolio. I find I made a couple different ones, and one was super colorful and one was black and white. And I found the more professional black and white definitely fit more, and it allows your work to stand out a lot more too. So including a small sketch to like show a bit more personality is what I thought a better way to present my work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think having, oh, this is gorgeous. Like having a cover page really sets the tone. It makes you, gives a sense of who your, what your personality is, your graphic presentation. Oh, this is beautiful. Look at this contents page that has that graphic theme running through it. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I did have 2 pages. I wrote like the title and what it was made of and the date, just like small. You see it again later on with the work. Um, but then again, another page. And then when formatting, me and Karen kind of talked about like the sandwich method where you have like something very wow at the beginning and wow again at the end to leave a good impression. So this was one of the works that I thought stood out really, really, really well. it had a good meaning, it was a good size, it is clearly bright in color, it grabs your attention. So this is one of the ones I did. Carleton has some prompts that you are going to do. You get to pick out of 4 out of 6 different prompts. So this was like coming up with a couple different ideas. This is not one of my prompts though, so I'll mention when we go through and we see them, I'll tell you.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
they
this was
want
just
to
one of
have 4 personal choice pieces and then 4 prompts. Is that correct?
they had 6 prompts and then you got to pick 4 of the
Yes.
6.
And then they allow 4 other pieces of your own choice?
You're allowed to put a portfolio together of up to 20 pieces. You got to pick a lot of them. So I believe I have 14.
Great.
Yeah, so you got to put like a lot of them together, which was nice because that allows you to show them your other skills, not only for their prompts, you get to show them other skills like your painting and stuff like that, which is nice.
Yeah, I really like, this is a great thing that you guys get to see, like um the product of weeks of taking courses and weeks of input, hard work by yourself and input from PortPrep instructors. And notice what she's done here. Really big image, 1 image on the page, nice clear title that's evocative. It has a, it gives you a hint of what it's about, but it makes you curious, a little bit of information. And then notice what she's done with kind of a subtitle or a phrase that's a little bit bolder and separated, and it tells us the key idea. And then if the portfolio reviewer wants to know more, she can write a little more detail in a short paragraph that goes a little bit deeper in expressing what it's about. That's a really good formula. And you've made this look so bold and clear. It's really easy to digest what's there, right? Because you got to remember, these profs are looking at hundreds or sometimes thousands of portfolios. So you really want to make it easy for them to grab what your piece is about. That's great.
Yeah, you were definitely helpful with that the most when I was writing this. I remember we were going through like hundreds of ideas. I had massive paragraphs and we were like, we need to make this readable. So it was definitely
It
helpful.
took a bit, a little bit of
Yeah.
revising along the way to clean it up and simplify it. Yeah, you do want to leave a bit of time for just the presentation itself. Yeah, obviously making the pieces is the most important, but how you put it together and how you write about it is part of what gets a student accepted to a high-level school like Carleton.
Is.
Yeah.
If your portfolio isn't strong, they don't appreciate it as much, especially because presentation in architecture is so important. Making something clean and making something that people want to look at is so important to like sell your product and like show people what you've created. So they definitely appreciate a good organized portfolio.
Yeah, that visual communication and written communication. So let's flip through some of this. This is, wow, great.
Yeah, so then I showed a little bit of my process work. They like to see a lot of your process as well. If you can come up with a couple nice pictures to kind of show what you were doing. So then on the side, again, like I've categorized it so they can kind of understand what I was doing during my work, that kind of stuff.
That's nice. And I like how you use the numbers and then told us what it means. I like what you're writing there where you're saying the color represents this, right? The idea, is encapsulated there very clearly. It looks like this because of that, basically. Yeah,
really
wonderful.
I found even in like my first semester, they love to see things that have meaning. So when you create something, you want to make sure it has a purpose and a meaning. So you can tell them, I did this because of this. And they really, really appreciate that. So it doesn't make it seem like you're just throwing something that looks together that looks nice. Like they really want to see your thought process and how you like want to present something.
Yeah, great.
This is another one I did. This was a little watercolor. So I just wanted to demonstrate a couple of my different skills between like painting, watercolor. They're done on different scales as well. So they like to see that. So definitely include like the size of your artwork so they can see the scale that you're working at. because I think that's very important. They're very particular on the sizes of paper and things that we present our work at. I even wanted to show them some jewelry making. I thought this was fun just to show them. I like to do like handmade stuff, just something small. It's a nice little addition. Not a main project, but it's nice to put in there.
Beautifully presented, and there's that monstera leaf again, both in the
Yeah.
work and in the graphic layout. So fun. Look at
Yeah.
that. Beautiful.
And then once again, some process work just to show them kind of how it came together. They love collages. They like to see how you piece your work together. I have a lot of fun making my notes look really nice. I still do that all the time. It's nice to have a little portfolio to look back at with all your inspiration. I got a lot of my collage ideas from a project that I did with Karen, and we did like a little idea board and like an inspiration board. So that's where I got a lot of my collage ideas from. So that was really helpful in making my work as well.
This is very effective the way you did it. Yeah. Great.
Okay. And this was one
Yeah,
of the
that came out looking great.
yeah, this was one of the prompts
Oh,
that I did for UBC actually. So this wasn't for Carleton, but I was able to use it in my portfolio, which is great because I didn't want to create 20 different works for each portfolio. It's nice to be able to include some different ones into each other. So this was the iPhone lampshade. I had to make like a lampshade using my iPhone flashlight. So I decided to make it out of like recycled materials. I made like a sugar glass around a balloon. And it looks really, really good in the dark. So it's got some cool reflections and stuff, which they always appreciate as well.
how how did you get the little circles at the bottom? Where is the phone?
The phone is inside the box, so
Oh,
I was able to drill some holes into the wood and it opened up for the light to pass through in the center. And then that way the light could kind of shine all around, which is how you get the reflections when it's on the wall.
that's beautiful. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's so cool. I remember us discussing this, but I don't think I ever saw the end product that I recall. Maybe I did, but wow,
Yeah, and it turned out really,
gorgeous.
really good. I really loved, I don't know if you could see my mouse there, but that
Yeah,
bottom left photo, that the more dye you add, obviously, the more pigmented it's going to be. And that one like ball was really, really cool. I
nice.
like that
Very
one.
fun. How creative. I can see why Carlton likes you, right? They really
Yeah,
love
I like the more creative.
creative thinkers and people that can think symbolically and metaphorically, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
This was another one of my prompts for UBC as well. We had to make a animal domicile, and I chose to do a lynx because I'm from Romania and it's their national animal. So I decided to turn a traditional Romanian house into a lynx house. So that's kind of the mix between the two. I have a couple shots of the interior. Um, it's just a simple like cardboard cut house. So it's just something small.
Fun.
So then again, I have the inside shot and then more about it as
Great.
well.
Wonderful.
And then my process work as well.
Great.
That's one of them.
Notice that Emma is showing her finished work first, then the process. For portfolio presentations, that's really the best way to do it. Get the impact of look what I made, now see how I got there. A lot of times in design programs, you're going to show your process first and then the project, but not in a portfolio. This shows much better. Um,
Yeah, I remember you telling me that if you show your progress first, people are going to start to change the way that they would have thought about it. And they're going to start saying, like, oh, I would have done this to make the house, or I would have done this. And then it changes their opinion on your final product because you might have not have included the same things they would have thought of. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I got that tip from somebody named Sam Does Design. So if anybody's interested in what does he do? I think he's a product designer. And man, does he ever give good advice on how to make like lay out a great portfolio? And yeah, and I thought that was a really good tip.
Yeah, it was. It was really
Really does
helpful.
show well in your portfolio. Nice, great.
Yeah, and then I just included a couple of the house sketches, very small. I kept them in the middle. These are not my strongest works, and if I were to take them out, I would.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, some of them we never quite finished all the way to what you intended, but it
yeah,
shows like one of the things that Emma's doing here, she's showing a range of skills, right? Those watercolor show she can watercolor paint, she can draw perspective, it shows a sense of design. Here we can see that she can draw from observation and in perspective. So and she's sandwiched these things in the middle, right? She started with really strong stuff and then showed some skills in the middle. And so not everything in your portfolio has to be absolutely stellar. It just has to show that you're ready to study, you're ready to be accepted. You've got enough skill base and creativity and all the different kinds of thinking skills that you're ready to learn. It's not trying to say you're professional artist or architect yet. You're applying for undergrad. So it's
yeah.
okay if some of the stuff is not as strong as others.
Yeah, even like looking back on like the work from that I've done in university compared to like before, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I did that. Like it's interesting to see like improvements. And even now looking at my work that I'm still doing now, I'm like, wow, I'm not gonna like this next semester, you know. Like
Well, it's
it's
okay. You're in
interesting to
first
see.
year, right? It's
Yeah,
perfect.
it's interesting to see and like how much you develop and it's really cool to see. I like it.
Yeah, great.
So this was one of like the more collage style works that I did. It's a mix between like pen work, printouts, and then cutouts. This was one of the prompts for Carleton. So we had to, I took the word extinction, and I used it as a way to represent like human activities and how they affect the environment. So this was kind of what I came up with. I showed like a robotic deer in like a man-made environment, and you could see like the destruction of the forest behind it. And it worked really well with the prompt, and so this is kind of what I came up
I'm
with.
curious. So did you order all of your Carleton prompts together and your other works separately? Like how did you choose to organize your portfolio with regards to the creativity prompts?
So in regards to the prompts, I kind of put them where I thought was best fit. At first, I was going to put all of the prompts first and then the rest of my work.
Mhm.
But I found, if I'm being completely honest, I think my creativity came through in some of my personal works more. So I wanted to show my more creative side first and then kind of slip in the prompts where they fit best with my other work. So I would have some pen work and then I would include like one of my prompts
Okay.
to show like this is where my pen work like led to this prompt kind of thing.
Okay.
So I think it really depends on how well you did the prompts and where it fits best in your portfolio. I don't always think that the prompts have to come first if it doesn't fit best.
Okay. So that's interesting because I think that's a question a lot of people have, or an assumption that, oh, I have to put the Carleton prompts together and my personal work together,
Yeah,
which
you
I
can
guess
definitely do
makes
that.
sense from an
Yeah.
organizational point of view, but you found that like visually it didn't flow right.
It didn't flow right. I think because just the way I had approached the prompts, I found that I did it because they're so open-ended. I found that they didn't fit with a lot of my other work. Um, so I kind of like to slip them in like once in a while. I was definitely going to organize them with the Carleton prompts first and then my work after. And if it works for you, definitely do it that way because I think that is like much better organized for them to tell as well. But it just worked best for me this way.
Yeah, so and they accepted you so that and they don't state that it has to be any particular way, do they?
No, no, they just
So
say
it
you're.
gives you the freedom.
Yeah.
Um and now was the prompt called extinction?
It had talked about extinction within the um prompt. I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but
Yeah.
um
You
it
might
was those lines.
you might want to, if so, I would say if you're going to intermix them, you might want to make sure it's clear that this is a prompt so that they
Yeah,
don't miss it or think you didn't do it.
yeah,
So, yeah, you maybe could have, included that somewhere.
yeah.
But great, they let you in. So I guess it doesn't matter too much. Great. Good. That's good to know. All right.
This is just another one of my sketches. We see the leaves come up pretty often. I do like them a lot. I get inspiration a lot from like what's around me, and my mom has a ton of these plants everywhere. So it's definitely nice to get inspiration from what's around you to give them like information on like what you're seeing and what your home life is like, like just a little bit about you, which is nice. And then once again, this is just a painting. And this is why I think it's really important to include your scale size. This is like about 4 feet tall, which is why I think it like you wouldn't be able to tell looking at the picture if I didn't include the size. So this is something I was super proud of. I really, really liked. I've never painted at that scale before. So I think it's definitely important to include the sizes.
Absolutely.
This was another one of the prompts for Carleton. It talked about like repurposing and stuff like that. So I took an old painting from a thrift store and I painted a timeline over it, kind of like reusing the painting and repurposing it for to demonstrate like the COVID timeline. This one was a really fun project for I think me and Karen because we were able to come up with a bunch of these timelines and brainstorming, so I could like paint over and write and draw like little things to demonstrate the COVID timeline kind of hidden in there. And I think this turned out to be like a really cool painting.
Cool. Great. Yeah, it's interesting. Their creativity prompts this year. Oh no, it's UBC. They're doing this thing about um reflecting on the mask mandate, what that was like to have half your face covered and how it
Oh,
affected
wow.
how people interacted. And now that the mandates are gone, what is that like? And that you'd design some type of personal protective gear to be worn somewhere on the body. And what would it be like to be in some kind of different environment where you have to wear this protective gear? And
That's so interesting.
so yeah, so it's a bit of reflecting on what that was like going through the pandemic with the mask
Okay.
mandates. So yeah,
That's
they
really
like,
interesting.
universities like to see how, how would you put that, like how students relate to the world around them and the greater culture. Um, they want to see that you have awareness beyond your insular life, to get a sense of what are you interested in and aware of in your society and beyond. So kind of indicating some of that kind of thing. And this shows us a little bit more about how you think about life. So, it's one thing that's good to do in your portfolios.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
So then again, I showed my final piece and then my progress.
Mhm, mhm,
You could see in the bottom, I've got all my sketches, all the little doodles we did.
mhm.
And I just have some close-ups of what you can't really see in the painting because I found it was hard to read some of the words. So it's just kind of, I picked out some of the more important pieces. I found that COVID had a huge impact on the environment with all of the single-use plastic, all of the masks and stuff that were going in the garbage. So I just kind of demonstrated that by like in the first image, you can see like there's masks stuck in the deer's antlers, and in the last photo, there's takeout containers. And um, COVID also had a big impact on like students in school and stuff like that. So there's a little laptop in the photo to demonstrate that as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Notice
just
one of the things that Emma's doing, like all of her photos line up, right? the background is white. If she's taken photos, they're really clear photos. The color rendering is good. If you've scanned your sketchbook or taken a photo of your sketchbook, the page is quite white. There's no shadows. It's like well presented. That's part of making a portfolio too. I mean, the layout, and mostly it's here's the artwork and explaining what's there. So this was a really smart decision that you did, because otherwise they wouldn't appreciate the amount of thought and detail that went into this piece. So you really want to highlight your work and show it clearly. This was really smart.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about like photographing your work. I think that is one of the most important things when submitting any sort of work, especially in architecture. I found they've taught us like so many different ways to photograph your work, so many different angles of capturing like the details within your models and stuff like that. And even my mom, she like really appreciates photography. She's like, wow, it's so interesting that they teach you this stuff. Like these are all like such good methods on how to photograph your work, and it's very, very helpful. And they've been teaching us stuff with like lighting and shadows, which has also been really, really helpful when taking photographs of your model, because it allows you to see stuff that you wouldn't have really seen before within your model. So the photos always come out like great. So I'm excited to show you some of those for sure.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I can see that. Like, I think you mentioned your mom, she's a media arts
Yep.
school teacher, right? So yeah, so I can see her being interested in some of these additional skills you're learning.
Yeah, she likes it a lot. This is another UBC prompt as well. So this one was called consequences. So I had to take 3 different drawings and put them together. So one of them is the full water bottle, one of them is the crushed water bottle, and the third drawing is that kind of ocean landscape within the bottle. So this one kind of talks about like single-use plastic and how they're only designed for one point in time. So you can see like the sailboat in the nice kind of landscape up top here. And then below you can see like little plastic bags and little pieces of plastic in the ocean, and like the consequences it has on like the little fish down there. So I thought this is one of my favorite ones. I thought this was kind of a nice
Well
little
done.
project.
Nicely presented too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent.
And this was my little wood sculpture. Once again, like angles of photos are so important. I really like those stair photos, the 2 that are stacked on top of each other. I think they're really good angles. They show the cuts, they show depth. I think that was a good way to present it as well. And then just some progress photos of when I was building it as well, showing the stair cuts and how I was kind of putting everything together.
Great. Yeah, some kind of sculpture is a great thing to include.
Yeah, any sort of model, like between like the little sculptures, like wood sculptures that aren't necessarily a building, and then like the Lynx house that I did also shows a little bit of like structure, and even like the lamp, stuff like that I found
Yeah,
was really, really
it's
important to
something
include, not just
we
drawings.
Yeah, so notice that everything's made by hand. They don't want CAD drawings, they don't want fancy 3D renders and digital paintings. You could probably include a little bit of that stuff, but it should be minor. They're looking to see what you can create with your own hands. Yeah, so because then they can really see your innate abilities. Software you will learn, right? So I think that's an important thing that I think a lot of students are surprised by when they go to apply for an architecture degree. What? I don't put architecture in it? You can put a little bit of architecture in it, but really handmade work. So the 3D work is great because, of course, you're going to be designing the 3D world. So showing an ability to work in 3 dimensions in maybe a more artistic way, more craft or crafty way, and then something that's a little bit more on the architectural end, like you built that house. You could, I don't know, build a chair or something, either in actual fact or at model. So any of those kinds of things are great to do. You've got perspective drawings, that's an important skill, and a variety of different creative making skills, right? And lots of wonderful conceptual thinking in your artworks. So that's great. And you didn't end up showing your self-portrait. You didn't feel you needed it, I guess.
No, I think that by the end of my self-portrait, I had kind of ruined it with the addition that I added with the flowers in the end. I'm a little upset that I had to add that for my project in high school, but I didn't end up including the portrait for my university
Right. Yeah, so
portfolio.
that's a little point. Like if you're taking an art class and there's something you're doing that you're really loving, you can always take a good quality photo or scan and save that. Because sometimes some high school art projects you could include. Sometimes what the challenge that Emma's describing is she had an art class where she was told she had to do something that you didn't really feel you really wanted to do for your project, and then it ended up not being something you wanted to include in your portfolio. So if you are doing something, try capturing the process. If it is at a point where you like it, maybe save that in some way. Maybe you could continue to do something else to it later. The other thing to be careful of with art portfolio content from high school art is you can have some, but don't just put that. They want to see what you can make on your own. That was not an assignment per se. Some schools actually caution you against putting like, assignment type work. Try to include as much of your own free choice work as you can.
Yeah, I thought that was really important. I only included like one, I think only my very, very first painting was the only one that I used from school. Just because that was my first abstract drawing, and I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, all of my other work was just either like a prompt or something I had done outside of school.
Yeah.
It allows you to be more creative and show your personality more. As soon as you do an assignment for school, like I said, like I had to follow what they wanted to see. And it kind of took away from like, I think the quality of work and what I wanted to see within like the product. So I
How
think
did
doing
you
my own work.
manage to be in grade 12 and you ended up with a high average? How did you do that and do all of this?
Definitely time management, taking time to put your work together is super important. I found like a lot of other students were also like procrastinating, like, oh, it doesn't take that long to put a portfolio together. Oh, I'll be fine. Like, I've got my work done. It takes a lot of time to put it together and well. Like, I think I sat down for like weeks doing this one portfolio, figuring out like how I wanted everything, even though it's simple black and white, like the arrangement, figuring out how you want it, a good written description. It takes time for sure. And setting aside even like an hour or two a night to like just get it done is really, really important.
Yeah. Um, could you stop your screen share for a second?
Yes, I can.
Um, and you've done you had some drawing skills before. You did take art in high school. You have a very creative mother. Being creative is part of the household, right? So that was definitely an asset to you, where when you decided you wanted to apply for architecture, you didn't also have to learn how to draw. You already could draw. So
Yeah.
some students, they're like, oh, I want to apply for architecture. Oh, they want art. I got to learn how to do that. So,
Yeah.
students that are in that case end up looking for more support from us at PortPrep or other opportunities in their neighborhood or other learning opportunities. You were in a really good place that way. And you're very motivated, you got a lot of work done. And I found that like you did UBC, I think, without any input from PortPrep. But as I recall, you took a course called Architecture and Design Portfolios with us. That was a group class and also had some in-person lessons as part of that, because you signed up as what's called a full level student. So you get like a whole hour of private instruction as well as being in the group class. So, and then I think we just had a few meetings here and there to help you with your layout, your writing, and that kind of thing. I'm curious, where did you go besides PortPrep? Where did you go to get support? How important was that support from other sources and from PortPrep to your portfolio development?
Okay, yeah. So for my portfolio, I mostly relied on like my own skills that I probably learned from like school and PortPrep. Like those were my two main sources, just what I already knew about like my organization skills when doing a presentation, just things that I've learned throughout high school. But my main source was PortPrep. I did have some teachers at high school, which were really nice to help me out, like my tech design teacher and like English teachers to help me like write stuff. But I would say that PortPrep was my main source of putting everything together. There wasn't really any, I didn't know of any other resources at the time to really help me the same way that like you can. So
yeah, good. How did you feel at the beginning? Can you recall? What did it feel like when you first started taking
at
this
the
on?
beginning, it was insanely overwhelming for a high school student to see all of the like requirements. And when you're putting together so many portfolios, I did apply to a lot more schools than some of my other architecture friends did. Most of my other friends from high school who applied to architecture only applied to like 2 schools. I applied to 5. So it was a lot more overwhelming with like portfolios and stuff like that. So I would say from their point of view, it was pretty easy. They had to put like 2 portfolios together, but I had to put like 5. So it depends how many schools you apply to, how much work, but yeah, I would definitely say at first glance, it seems like a lot, but you were able to help me like get organized, make a list. This is what I need to do for this school. Can I incorporate some of this work into another school? So I feel like once you get it all laid out and organized and you just do it step by step, that's what made it really easy. And just doing it helps you really relax, like, oh, I got one project done. And it makes you feel so much better than sitting there with all of the projects for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you love organization, I think.
Yeah.
So which is a good thing. And we set up I gave you a very basic Gantt chart and you just filled it in. And that helped you stay organized. I mean, some students put post-it notes on their walls, whatever works for you, right?
Yeah, any way to organize, any way to lay out what you need to do in order,
Yeah.
just so helpful.
Because it's not just making the portfolio, especially if you're applying for so many schools. There's entrance essays, there's videos you have to make sometimes, there's
Yeah.
lots of different things that are due at different times. So some way to stay organized is important. So that was great. You really got a lot done in a short time,
Yeah.
and you had a job where you
Yeah.
worked quite a lot. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's impressive how much you got done and survived that. So now that you survived that and then you got the great news of getting accepted, how many schools did you get accepted to, Emma?
I got accepted to Carleton, Ryerson for both architecture and interior design,
Mhm.
and OCAD as well. I applied for a couple different backup programs at OCAD, like industrial design, interior design, drawing, stuff like that.
Yeah, so just in case.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
else I was interested in.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
but I also
So,
applied to Waterloo and UBC
and
as well.
okay, yeah, yeah, those two programs are fantastic, but they are very challenging to get accepted into.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But you made
Yeah.
some great work.
Yeah.
Yes. And what was your average like?
My average was pretty high. My math was definitely on the lower end. I think I finished with a 75 in math. So I would say it's just like the average, their minimum requirements for most schools that I applied to, excluding Waterloo, was around a 60 average is what they wanted, or even a 70. So I was within range, but I wouldn't say it was anything super impressive. I think my other classes, like English and physics and the other requirements they had like that, were definitely in the higher range, closer to like a low 90. So I think math was my only downfall. So yeah.
So yeah, so maybe that had some impact on Waterloo, I guess.
It definitely did.
Yeah, I think they prefer to see 85 and above, I believe.
Yeah,
To get the
and even
interview.
then, all my friends that applied to Waterloo had like low 90s and they still didn't get in this year. So it seems pretty competitive.
It
It seems
is. Yeah.
competitive here.
I've been coaching architecture portfolios for I think 12 years now, and I've had 3 people get accepted, one on the wait list, and one, yes, you're accepted. Wait, no, you're not. And the writing's important too. I had a student that was rejected because of her précis writing. I was
Yeah,
shocked, but yeah,
that I
you know,
heard was a lot to,
yeah.
yeah.